There is a secret that Napoleon Hill discovered after interviewing more than 500 of the most successful men of his era. A principle so powerful that when applied correctly, it has the power to completely change the course of a life. It's not luck, it's not privilege, it's mental science. And in the next few minutes, you're going to discover exactly how to apply this knowledge. But first, if you really want this message to transform your reality, leave your like now. This simple gesture tells the universe and the algorithm that you're ready to receive. Let's begin. Have you ever stopped to think about what really separates those who achieve everything they desire from those who spend their entire lives just dreaming? It's not intelligence, it's not formal education, it's not even opportunity. Napoleon Hill spent 2 decades studying this question, analyzing the lives of industry titans, revolutionary inventors, and empire builders. And what he discovered goes against everything society has taught you. The difference lies in a single place: the mind. But not the mind as you know it, filled with random thoughts and endless worries. Napoleon Hill teaches about a trained mind, focused, directed toward a specific purpose with unwavering intensity. He called this the principle of the dominant thought. And here's the truth that will change everything for you. Your current life is the exact reflection of the thoughts that have dominated your mind in recent months and years. If today you look around and don't see the reality you desire, don't blame circumstances. Don't blame the economy, the government, or lack of opportunities. Napoleon Hill discovered that these are just excuses that the weak mind creates to justify the absence of results. The real cause lies in the control or lack thereof that you exercise over your own thoughts. Think about this for a moment. How many times today have you allowed thoughts of doubt, fear, or limitation to occupy your mind? How many times have you caught yourself mentally repeating the same worries from the day before? Napoleon Hill teaches that every thought you allow to remain in your consciousness is literally shaping your future reality. Not metaphorically, literally. But here's what few understand. It's not just about positive thinking. Napoleon Hill never taught blind optimism. He taught something much more powerful: the conscious direction of mental energy. There's a huge difference between someone who vaguely thinks about prosperity and someone who maintains a burning, specific, constant desire burning in their mind day and night. The mind functions like a magnet. This isn't a New Age metaphor. It's a scientific observation that Napoleon Hill documented over decades of research. When you hold a thought with sufficient intensity, something extraordinary happens. Your subconscious mind begins to work 24 hours a day to materialize that. It reorganizes your perception, identifies opportunities that previously went unnoticed, and propels you to take actions that naturally align you with what you desire. But there's a secret within this secret. Our detail that only 3% of people discover, and this is what separates those who merely understand the concept from those who truly transform their lives with it. Napoleon Hill called this the difference between desire and burning desire. Most people desire things. They want more money, they want success, they want freedom. But this type of desire is weak, fleeting, easily forgotten when the slightest resistance appears. Burning desire is completely different. It's a controlled obsession. It's when something burns inside you with such intensity that it becomes impossible to ignore. It's when you wake up thinking about it, spend the entire day orchestrated around it, and go to sleep visualizing it. Napoleon Hill discovered that all great achievers had this characteristic in common. They didn't just want something, they needed it as if it were a matter of survival. Now pay attention, because this is crucial. Burning desire isn't born ready. It needs to be cultivated. And here's how Napoleon Hill teaches you to do it. First, you need absolute clarity about what you desire. It can't be vague, it can't be a maybe, or it would be nice. It has to be specific, measurable, tangible. Exactly how much money? What type of life precisely? Which concrete achievement? Vagueness is the poison of manifestation. When your mind doesn't know exactly what to seek, it wanders without direction. But when you define with surgical precision what you want, something powerful happens. Your subconscious mind receives a clear command and immediately begins working to fulfill it. Second, you need to write. Napoleon Hill was inflexible on this point. Thoughts that remain only in the head have little power, but when you take pen and paper and write exactly what you desire, when you want it, and what you're willing to give in exchange, you transform idea into commitment. Writing is the act that seals the pact between your conscious and subconscious mind. Write with details, not just "I want to be rich," but "I will accumulate $1 million by such date, doing this and that, offering such value to the world." The more specific, the more power you inject into the process. And then read this every day, in the morning upon waking and at night before sleeping. Read with emotion, with conviction, as if it were already true. Because each reading reinforces the command to your subconscious mind. Third, Napoleon Hill teaches that you need to feel. The subconscious mind doesn't respond to cold words, it responds to emotions. When you visualize your goal, don't just see, feel. What would it be like to have that? What emotions would you experience? What feeling of freedom, of pride, of accomplishment? The more you can generate these emotions now, before having the physical result, the faster the external reality will align with the internal. And here's something fascinating that Napoleon Hill discovered. The subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a real experience and one imagined with sufficient intensity. This means that when you visualize your success with richness of detail and genuine emotion, your brain begins to believe that it's already real. And when it believes, it acts accordingly. But wait, because there's more. Napoleon Hill discovered that the mind doesn't operate in isolation. There's a greater force, an infinite intelligence, as he called it, that permeates everything. And when your individual mind aligns with this intelligence through focused thought and definite purpose, you gain access to resources that go beyond your personal capacity. Ideas arise from nowhere. The right people appear at the exact moment. Opportunities materialize as if the universe conspired in your favor. But here's the part that most people miss. This infinite intelligence doesn't respond to desperate requests. It responds to applied faith. Napoleon Hill teaches that faith isn't just believing. Anyone can vaguely believe in something. Applied faith is when you believe with such conviction that you act as if the outcome were already guaranteed. It's when you make decisions, invest resources, and burn bridges based on the absolute certainty that it will materialize. This is the faith that moves mountains, not the passive faith of those who wait sitting down, but the active faith of those who build the future in the present. Napoleon Hill observed that all great achievers had this characteristic. They acted before having guarantees. They invested before having security. They committed before seeing the complete path. And it was exactly this boldness based on faith that opened the doors. Now I want you to understand something fundamental. Napoleon Hill wasn't teaching magical thinking. He was teaching applied mental science. The difference is crucial. Magical thinking is believing that things will appear out of nowhere just because you wished for them. Mental science is understanding that when you align thought, emotion, and action in a specific direction, you activate natural forces that inevitably produce results. Think of your mind as a broadcasting station. It's constantly emitting frequencies based on your dominant thoughts, and the universe, like a receiving station, picks up these frequencies and responds accordingly. If you transmit doubt, you receive circumstances that confirm doubt. If you transmit confidence and certainty, you receive opportunities that confirm your confidence. Napoleon Hill spent years studying this principle in action. He observed how men who lost everything managed to rebuild empires simply because they kept their minds focused on reconstruction instead of fixating on loss. He saw how inventors who failed hundreds of times eventually triumphed because they never allowed failure to dominate their thoughts. They extracted the lesson, adjusted the approach, and kept the vision intact. And here's the liberating truth. It doesn't matter where you are now. It doesn't matter how many mistakes you've made in the past. It doesn't matter how many opportunities you've wasted. From the moment you assume total control over your thoughts and begin directing them with definite purpose, everything changes. Your past life doesn't determine your future. Your present thoughts determine it. Napoleon Hill teaches that there's a turning point in the journey of every successful human being. It's the moment when the person stops reacting to life and begins creating life. stops blaming external circumstances and assumes total responsibility, stops waiting for someone or something to change and decides to be the change themselves. This turning point always begins with a mental decision, a line drawn in the sand, an unbreakable commitment. And when this decision is made with absolute sincerity, something remarkable happens. The universe tests you. It will place obstacles in your path not to stop you, but to verify if you really want what you say you want. Most people fail this test. At the first serious obstacle, they turn back, reaffirm their old excuses, and say they tried but it didn't work. But those who understand Napoleon Hill's teachings see obstacles differently. They recognize each challenge as an opportunity to strengthen their determination. Each no they receive brings them closer to the definitive yes. Each temporary failure is just valuable feedback in disguise. And the more they persist despite contrary appearances, the more infinite intelligence recognizes their seriousness and begins to open paths. So here's what Napoleon Hill wants you to understand right now. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are an architect of reality. Your mind possesses unlimited creative power. But this power remains dormant until you consciously decide to activate it through directed thought, burning desire, and persistent action. The world you live in today was created by the thoughts you fed yesterday. The world you'll live in tomorrow is being created by the thoughts you feed now. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's natural law, as reliable as gravity. And now that you know this, a responsibility falls on your shoulders. You can no longer pretend ignorance. You can no longer blame external factors, because now you know that the key has always been with you. The question that remains is, what will you do with this knowledge? Now let's dive deeper, because understanding the principle is just the beginning. Napoleon Hill teaches that knowledge without application is merely entertainment, and what you're about to discover is how to transform thought into tangible reality, how to build the bridge between the invisible and the visible, between desire and physical manifestation. There's a formula that Napoleon Hill discovered after analyzing hundreds of cases of extraordinary success, a precise sequence that, when followed with discipline, produces inevitable results. But before revealing this formula, you need to understand something fundamental about how the mind really works. Your mind operates on two distinct levels. Napoleon Hill called this the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the one you use now to read these words, to make deliberate decisions, to analyze and reason. But it represents only a small fraction of your total mental power. Some scientists estimate it to be less than 10%. The subconscious mind is where the real power resides. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without ever resting. It controls all automatic functions of your body, stores all your memories, governs your habits, and most importantly, it works incessantly to materialize the dominant thoughts you feed it. Here's the secret that changes everything. Your subconscious mind doesn't judge. It doesn't question whether a thought is good or bad, true or false, possible or impossible. It simply accepts what you repeatedly imprint upon it and works to make that real. It's like fertile soil that grows any seed planted, whether a rose or a weed. Napoleon Hill discovered that the most successful men were those who consciously programmed their subconscious mind. They didn't let random thoughts dominate. They deliberately chose the thoughts they would repeatedly feed until those thoughts became automatic commands for the subconscious. And how to do this? Through a process that Napoleon Hill called auto-suggestion. But don't confuse this with empty affirmations. Effective auto-suggestion requires 3 specific elements. First, the affirmation needs to be specific and measurable. Instead of "I want to be rich," you say "I will accumulate $1 million by December 2026. Second, the affirmation needs to include what you'll give in exchange, because Napoleon Hill teaches that there's no something for nothing in the universe. Everything has a price. So you complete, and in exchange I will offer my talents in such area, working with such dedication, serving so many people. When you specify the exchange, you remove the element of fantasy and transform desire into a real plan. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, You need to repeat this affirmation with intense emotion. Napoleon Hill was categorical on this point. Words without feeling don't penetrate the subconscious. But when you say your affirmations feeling as if you've already achieved it, when you generate the real emotion of gratitude, pride, and accomplishment, these emotions function as the vehicle that transports the thought to the depths of the subconscious. Do this twice a day, every day without exception, in the morning upon waking, before the external world contaminates your mind with its urgencies and distractions, and at night before sleeping, because the period immediately before sleep is when your subconscious mind is most receptive to new programming. But here's where most fail. They do this for 3 days, 5 days, maybe a week, and then they stop because they don't see immediate results. Napoleon Hill teaches that this is like planting a seed and digging it up the next day to check if it germinated. Subconscious programming takes time, but when you persist with faith and constancy, you eventually reach an inflection point where change becomes irreversible. Now, Napoleon Hill discovered something even more powerful. Beyond individual autosuggestion, there's the principle of the mastermind. He observed that when 2 or more minds unite in perfect harmony around a definite purpose, something extraordinary happens. The sum of mental force isn't 1 + 1 = 2, it's 1 + 1 = 10, or 100, or 1,000. There's a synergy, an exponential amplification that occurs when aligned minds work together. This is why practically all great undertakings were accomplished by teams, not by isolated individuals. Napoleon Hill saw this repeatedly. Andrew Carnegie had his team of advisors. Henry Ford had his inner circle. Thomas Edison collaborated with brilliant minds. The mastermind principle isn't about simply gathering people. It's about creating an alliance where there's complete harmony, shared purpose, and mutual benefit. When you find 1 or more people who share your vision, who complement your skills, and who are equally committed to the goal, you form a force that vastly exceeds the capacity of any individual. But beware. Napoleon Hill also warned about the destructive power of negative associations. If you surround yourself with skeptical, complaining, unambitious people, their collective minds will work against you. They'll contaminate your enthusiasm, sow doubts, and drain your energy. That's why it's absolutely vital to carefully choose with whom you spend significant time. Evaluate your closest circle right now. Are the 5 people you interact with most elevating you or pulling you down? Do they believe in you or subtly discourage you? Do they have bigger visions or are they content with mediocrity? This honest analysis can be the difference between decades of stagnation and years of exponential growth. Now let's move to something Napoleon Hill considered absolutely essential: the transformation of sexual energy into creative energy. This is one of the most misunderstood and at the same time most powerful concepts of all his work. Sexual energy is the most potent, vital force of the human being. It's what perpetuates the species, generates new life, carries the most intense creative impulse. Napoleon Hill discovered that the men and women of greatest achievement were those who learned to channel this energy not just for physical gratification, but to fuel their creative and professional ambitions. When sexual energy is transmuted, it becomes fuel for creative genius, for tireless persistence, for irresistible personal magnetism. It's not about repressing or denying the sexual impulse. It's about consciously directing it. It's using that same intensity, that same passion, that same fire to build, create, and achieve. Napoleon Hill observed that periods of greatest creative productivity frequently coincided with periods of intense emotional and sexual energy channeled into work. Think about it. The same force that can create a human life when redirected can create commercial empires, immortal works of art, revolutionary inventions. But this requires maturity and self-control. It requires the conscious decision to use this powerful energy to build something lasting, instead of dissipating it in momentary gratifications. Now we arrive at a crucial point. Napoleon Hill teaches that between desire and realization, there's a bridge called faith. But not the passive faith of those who wait for something to happen. The active faith of those who act as if the outcome were already guaranteed. This is the faith that Napoleon Hill called applied faith, Applied faith is when you invest your money in a project before being certain of the return. It's when you burn your bridges and commit totally to a path. It's when you act publicly based on an internal conviction, even risking looking foolish if you fail. This boldness based on faith is what separates creators from dreamers. Napoleon Hill observed that there's a critical moment in the journey of every achiever. It's the moment when they need to take a leap in the dark, make a bold move without having all the guarantees. And it's exactly at this moment that most falter. They want more certainties, more information, more security, but truly great opportunities never come with guarantees. Successful people understand this. They do their homework, plan carefully, but then act decisively even with incomplete information. They know that waiting for perfect certainty is guaranteeing that you'll always arrive late after the opportunity has already passed. And here's something fascinating. Napoleon Hill discovered that the universe somehow tests your faith. When you make an important decision and commit totally, often things get worse before they get better. It's as if there were an initial resistance, a final obstacle to verify if you're really committed. Most interpret this as a sign that they made the wrong decision and retreat. But those who understand the principle persist through this initial resistance. And on the other side, they discover that doors begin to open. Resources that weren't available appear. People who can help emerge from nowhere. Solutions to problems that seemed impossible present themselves. It's as if the act of persisting through resistance proved to the universe that you deserve what you seek. Napoleon Hill also teaches something revolutionary about failure. He says that failure is one of the greatest disguised blessings of life. Every failure carries the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, but most people never discover this seed because they're too busy lamenting the loss. Analyze any great success, and you'll find monumental failures along the way. Napoleon Hill studied the lives of hundreds of extremely successful people, and in practically all cases, he found bankruptcies, public failures, humiliations. But these people had one characteristic in common. They extracted the lesson from failure, adjusted their approach, and moved forward with renewed determination. Failure only becomes permanent when you give up. As long as you keep trying, refining, learning, failure is only temporary. It's valuable feedback in disguise. It's the universe showing what doesn't work, so you can discover what does work. But you need to have the maturity and resilience to interpret failure this way. Now I want to give you a practical exercise that comes directly from Napoleon Hill's teachings. In the next 60 seconds after this video ends, get pen and paper. Write a clear affirmation of what you want to achieve. Be specific. Include values, dates, details, then write what you'll give in exchange. What skills you'll develop, what value you'll offer, what sacrifices you're willing to make. Keep this paper in a place where you'll see it every day. And then, every morning and night, read this affirmation out loud with all the emotion you can generate. Visualize while you read. Feel as if you've already achieved it. Do this religiously for 30 days without missing a single day. And observe what begins to happen in your life. Opportunities will arise, ideas will sprout, people will appear. Because when you program your subconscious mind with clarity and emotion, it becomes an irresistible force, working 24 hours a day to materialize what you've planted in it. This is the power of mental science that Napoleon Hill dedicated his life to revealing, and now you have access to the same knowledge that built fortunes and changed destinies. But knowledge without action is just inert information. Napoleon Hill would say you need to act now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Now, because immediate action is what separates those who learn from those who transform. And transformation is what you really seek, isn't it? Not just knowing, but being. Not just understanding, but living. Not just admiring success, but creating it with your own hands. So the question hanging in the air is simple but profound. Will you use this knowledge, or will you let it evaporate like one more good intention? Because life doesn't wait. Opportunities don't pause. And each day that passes without deliberate action is a day when you allow your reality to be shaped by external forces instead of your conscious intention. The choice, as always, is yours. But now you know what's possible. And with this knowledge comes responsibility. Now we need to talk about something that most people carry like an invisible chain, something that Napoleon Hill identified as the greatest obstacle between you and the prosperity you desire. It's not lack of opportunity. It's not lack of intelligence. It's something much deeper and more insidious. It's the limiting beliefs about money that were programmed into you since childhood. Napoleon Hill teaches that your relationship with money was formed long before you were conscious of it. Since you were small, you heard phrases that shaped your mental programming about wealth. Money doesn't grow on trees. The rich are greedy. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. Money is the root of all evil. Each of these phrases, repeated enough times, became an operational command in your subconscious mind. And now, even if you consciously desire prosperity, there's a deep part of you that believes money is bad, that rich people are evil, that desiring wealth is being greedy. This internal contradiction is what Napoleon Hill called mental conflict. And here's the brutal truth. As long as mental conflict exists, nothing manifests. You can repeat positive affirmations 1,000 times a day, but if deep down you believe you don't deserve prosperity, or that money corrupts, or that good people should be poor, your subconscious mind will sabotage every opportunity that appears. Napoleon Hill dedicated years studying this phenomenon. He observed people with exceptional talent, remarkable intelligence, and abundant opportunities who consistently failed to prosper. And the root cause was always the same: conflicting subconscious beliefs about money and success. It was like driving a car with one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. Much effort, little result. So how to solve this? Napoleon Hill teaches that you first need to identify these limiting beliefs. And the most effective way to do this is to observe your current results. Your present financial reality is the perfect mirror of your subconscious beliefs about money. If you constantly have financial difficulties, ask yourself honestly, what belief about money am I carrying that creates this result? Maybe it's the belief that money is hard to get, or that you need to work too hard to earn well, or that people in your family were never financially successful, so you won't be either. Or that you're not smart enough, connected enough, lucky enough. Each of these beliefs, when unquestioned, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now comes the crucial part. After identifying the limiting belief, you need to consciously replace it with an empowering belief. Napoleon Hill teaches that you do this through the same repetition process that created the limiting belief in the first place. But now you do it intentionally. If your old belief is money is hard to get, your new programmed belief will be money flows to me with increasing ease. If it was rich people are greedy, now it's wealth allows me to serve on a larger scale. If it was I don't deserve prosperity, now it's I deserve abundance because I offer genuine value to the world. Write your new beliefs. Read them out loud daily. But here's the secret that few apply. You need to feel these new beliefs as true. It's not enough to repeat mechanically. When you say, I deserve abundance, you need to generate the emotion of deservingness. You need to connect with the feeling that this is true, because it's emotion that imprints the new belief in the subconscious. Napoleon Hill also discovered something revolutionary about the nature of money. He teaches that money is simply crystallized energy. It's materialized value. It's not good or bad. It's neutral. Like a tool that can be used to build or destroy, depending on who wields it and with what intention. The problem is that society has conditioned people to have an unhealthy emotional relationship with money. They idolize it as if it were the end in itself, or they demonize it as if it were inherently corrupt. Both perspectives are distortions. Napoleon Hill teaches that you need to see money for what it really is, a medium of exchange, a tool of freedom, an amplifier of what you already are. If you're generous by nature, money amplifies your generosity. If you're stingy, it amplifies your stinginess. If you have clear purpose, money accelerates the realization of that purpose. If you have no purpose, money only reveals the emptiness. That's why Napoleon Hill was so emphatic that you needed to define your purpose before seeking wealth. And here's something that completely changes the game. Napoleon Hill teaches that true wealth isn't in accumulating but in circulating. Money is like water. It needs to flow to remain healthy. When you obsessively retain every penny, you create stagnation. But when you give generously, knowing that more will come, you create a flow that brings increasing abundance. This doesn't mean being imprudent or wasting resources. It means understanding that the universe operates based on reciprocity. When you give genuine value, you receive value back. When you serve with excellence, you're rewarded with abundance. This is the natural law that Napoleon Hill observed operating consistently in the lives of all great wealth accumulators. Now let's move to something extremely practical. Napoleon Hill teaches that you need to have a definite plan to acquire wealth. It can't be vague. It can't be someday I'll be rich. It needs to be a specific plan with clearly defined steps. And here's how to create this plan. First, determine the exact amount you desire to accumulate, not approximately, exactly. How much? 1 million, 5 million. Be specific because your subconscious mind needs a clear target. Second, establish a definite deadline. In how much time will you accumulate this amount? 3 years? 5 years? 10 years? The deadline creates urgency and forces your brain to work retroactively from the goal to the present. Third, and this is absolutely crucial, determine exactly what you'll give in exchange for this wealth. Napoleon Hill was inflexible on this point. There's no legitimate enrichment without equivalent exchange of value. So ask yourself, what product or service will I offer? What problem will I solve? How many people will I serve? What skills do I need to develop? Fourth, create a detailed action plan. What are the specific steps you'll take? What knowledge do you need to acquire? What people do you need to meet? What resources do you need to gather? Break your big goal into measurable monthly, weekly, daily goals. The more detailed your plan, the more real it becomes to your subconscious mind. Fifth, write all this in a clear and concise statement. Read this statement out loud twice a day, in the morning upon waking and at night before sleeping. Read with emotion, with conviction, visualizing yourself already having achieved the goal. This process of emotional repetition programs your subconscious to work automatically toward the goal. Napoleon Hill observed that practically every person who achieved great wealth followed these steps, even if some did it intuitively without knowing the science behind it. But when you do this consciously, with full understanding of the process, you dramatically accelerate the results. Now we need to talk about persistence, because here's where 99% of people fail. They start with enthusiasm, follow the plan for a few days or weeks, and then give up at the first serious difficulty. Napoleon Hill teaches that persistence isn't just continuing. It's continuing with unwavering faith when all external evidence says you should stop. The persistence that builds fortunes is the one that persists through doubt, through fatigue, through the mockery of others, through temporary failures. It's the persistence that says I will continue until I succeed or until I die trying. There's no plan B, there's no emergency exit, there's only one path: forward. Napoleon Hill discovered that every great achievement is preceded by a period of trial. It's as if the universe tested your determination. The obstacles increase, the difficulties multiply, the people around you begin to question your sanity. And it's exactly at this moment that most give up, often when they were just a few steps from triumph. But those who understand the principle of persistence recognize these difficulties for what they really are: the final test before victory. They double their efforts, they renew their faith, they persist with even fiercer determination. And then, almost like magic, doors begin to open, solutions appear, the impossible becomes inevitable. Napoleon Hill recounts that he studied the lives of hundreds of successful people and found a consistent pattern. Practically all of them went through a critical moment where everything seemed lost, where bankruptcy was imminent, where the dream seemed impossible. But they refused to accept defeat. They persisted one more day, one more week, one more month. And it was exactly at this point of maximum pressure that the turnaround happened. So when you find yourself in that place, when everything seems dark, when doubt screams in your ears, remember this: you may be just one step from victory. One additional effort, one more attempt, one persistence beyond what others would consider reasonable. And it's exactly this irrational persistence, this faith beyond logic, that separates the victorious from the defeated. Now let's talk about something Napoleon Hill considered one of the most powerful forces in the universe: definitive decision. There's a colossal difference between wanting something and deciding something. Most people spend life wanting. They want more money, they want success, they want freedom. But wanting doesn't create anything, only decision creates. To decide is to cut all other possibilities. It's to burn the bridges. It's to commit totally without leaving an escape door. Napoleon Hill teaches that the moment you make a true decision, the entire universe conspires to make it reality. But it needs to be a genuine decision, not a desire disguised as decision. How to know if you really decided? Simple. Observe your actions. If you truly decided, your actions will change immediately and dramatically. You'll cut habits that delay you, eliminate distractions, prioritize implacably what matters. True decision creates inevitable movement. But most people live in a state of almost decision. They say they decided but maintain plan B. They affirm being committed, but the first difficulty makes them reconsider. They swear they'll persist, but secretly hope for an easier way out. This indecision disguised as decision is what keeps most in mediocrity. Napoleon Hill studied people who made monumental decisions and followed them to the last consequences. He observed that these decisions often seemed like madness to others. Leaving a secure job to pursue a dream, investing all savings in an uncertain project, completely changing direction when you already had years invested in another area. But these apparently crazy decisions were based on deep faith and clear vision. And it was exactly these bold decisions that opened possibilities impossible to access through safe and gradual paths. The universe rewards boldness based on faith, not recklessness based on impulsivity. There's a crucial difference between the two. Now we arrive at the point where everything crystallizes, where theory transforms into practice, where knowledge becomes power. Napoleon Hill developed a specific formula that, when applied with exactness, produces wealth in an almost scientific way. This formula is the distillate of decades of research, hundreds of interviews, and meticulous analysis of success cases. And this formula begins with something simple but profound: specialization. Napoleon Hill teaches that in the modern era, genuine wealth comes from specialized knowledge applied. General knowledge has little value, but deep expertise in a specific area is a goldmine. The more specialized your knowledge, the more valuable you become in the market. So the first question you need to answer is, in what area will I become exceptional? Not competent, not good. Exceptional, top 5%. Napoleon Hill observed that the greatest fortunes were built by people who knew more about a specific subject than practically any other human being. They became the indisputable authority. And here's what few understand. You don't need to have this specialized knowledge now. You need to decide to acquire it and then commit fanatically to this acquisition process. Study obsessively, practice tirelessly, seek mentors who already master what you want to master. Invest in education as if your life depended on it, because in a way it does. Second step of the formula, organization. Napoleon Hill teaches that knowledge by itself doesn't create wealth. Knowledge organized into definite action plans is what creates wealth. You need to take your specialized knowledge and structure it into systems, processes, products, or services that solve real problems for real people. Third step, coordination of efforts. Napoleon Hill observed that practically no great fortune was built by solitary effort. You need to recruit other minds and talents that complement yours. You need to form strategic alliances. You need to create a team where each member brings unique skills that, when harmoniously coordinated, produce exponentially greater results. Fourth step, and here's where many stumble, you need a fair compensation system. Napoleon Hill was categorical. No organization prospers durably without everyone involved feeling they're being adequately rewarded. Short-term greed destroys empires. Strategic generosity builds dynasties. Fifth step, leadership based on service. Napoleon Hill teaches that the greatest leaders are those who serve most, not those who command most. When you lead by serving, When you genuinely care about your team's success, when you place greater purpose above personal ego, you create unshakable loyalty and total commitment. And then comes the sixth step, perhaps the most important of all. Napoleon Hill called this going the extra mile. It's the habit of always doing more than what you're paid for. It's delivering value above expectations. It's positively surprising. It's serving with such consistent excellence that you become irreplaceable. This principle by itself has the power to completely transform your financial trajectory. Because when you consistently deliver more value than you receive, you create a deficit in the universe. And the universe, operating by the law of compensation, eventually balances this equation by bringing you opportunities, promotions, resources that dramatically multiply your return. Napoleon Hill observed that people who practiced the extra mile never remained in subordinate positions for long. They were invariably promoted, recruited for better opportunities, or inspired to create their own successful enterprises. The universe simply doesn't allow consistently exceptional value to remain unrewarded. Now let's complete the formula that Napoleon Hill considered infallible when applied with total discipline. The 6 steps you just learned are the foundation. But there's a 7th element that transforms this foundation into an unshakable edifice. And this element is something Napoleon Hill discovered to be the common denominator of absolutely all great lasting fortunes. This 7th element is the application of the golden rule in business. Napoleon Hill teaches that you should do unto others what you would like them to do unto you, not out of empty moralism, but because it's the most intelligent long-term strategy. When you treat customers, partners, and collaborators with absolute integrity, you build reputation, and reputation is the most valuable asset any person can possess. Think about it. In a world saturated with empty promises and misleading propaganda, the person who consistently delivers what they promise, who treats everyone with genuine respect, who acts with integrity even when no one is watching, this person stands out like a beacon. The most lucrative opportunities, the most valuable partners, the most loyal customers are naturally attracted to those who operate with this integrity. Napoleon Hill observed something fascinating. He saw businesses built on manipulation and greed have explosive short-term success, but inevitably collapse. Dishonesty can generate quick profit, but never build something lasting. On the other hand, businesses built on genuine service and solid integrity grew more slowly, but created empires that crossed generations. So now you have the complete formula. 7 elements that, when combined and applied with unwavering consistency, produce wealth almost guaranteed. Deep specialization, knowledge organized into systems, coordination of diverse talents, fair compensation for all, leadership based on service, the habit of the extra mile, and absolute integrity in all transactions. But here's the truth Napoleon Hill wanted you to understand above all. This formula isn't academic theory. It's practical science tested and proven over decades by hundreds of people who applied it. It works, but it only works for those who apply it completely, not partially. You can't choose 3 elements and ignore 4. It's an integrated system where each part reinforces the others. And now let's move to something few talk about, but that Napoleon Hill considered absolutely essential. For all this knowledge to manifest in tangible results, you need to master one skill above all others: self-discipline. Without self-discipline, all the principles you learned remain just beautiful concepts. With self-discipline, they transform into realizing power. Self-discipline is the capacity to do what needs to be done when it needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. It's waking up at the planned time even when the body asks for 5 more minutes. It's working on your priorities even when tempting distractions arise. It's persisting in your plan even when immediate results don't appear. It's choosing constructive discomfort instead of destructive comfort. Napoleon Hill teaches that self-discipline isn't something you're born having. It's a muscle you develop through consistent practice. And here's how to do it. Start small. Choose a specific area of your life where you'll exercise absolute control. Maybe it's the wake-up time, or eliminating a specific distraction, or dedicating 1 hour daily to an important project. Commit totally to this single area for 30 days. Don't fail a single day. Each time you fulfill what you promised yourself, you strengthen the muscle of self-discipline. Each time you fail, you weaken it. So treat these small commitments as if your life depended on them. Because in a sense it does. Because it's through these small acts of discipline that you transform into the person capable of conquering big goals. And here's something that will dramatically amplify your results. Napoleon Hill discovered the power of external pressure. When you keep your goals secret, it's easy to give up when things get difficult. Nobody knows, nobody demands, no consequence. But when you publicly declare your intentions, when you commit before others, you create healthy pressure that forces you to persist. So do this. Choose 1 or 2 people you respect and entrust them with your most important goals. Ask them to hold you accountable regularly. Report your progress weekly. This external accountability is what keeps you on track when internal motivation falters, and motivation always falters. That's why you need external support structures. Napoleon Hill also teaches something revolutionary about the use of time. He says that time is the only truly democratic resource. Every human being has exactly 24 hours per day. The difference between those who achieve much and those who achieve little lies in how these 24 hours are invested. Note the word, invested, not spent. Successful people treat time as the most precious resource. They invest it deliberately in activities that produce compound return. Learning that increases skills, relationships that open opportunities, focused work that creates real value. They eliminate mercilessly everything that doesn't serve their greater goals. Do an honest inventory of your time. Use now. Take the last 7 days and calculate how many hours were invested in activities that bring you closer to your goals and how many were wasted on distractions. Most people are shocked to discover they waste 20, 30, even 40 hours weekly on activities that add absolutely nothing to their lives. Social media without purpose, excessive passive entertainment, empty conversations, unproductive worries. If you recovered just half of this wasted time and redirected it to developing valuable skills, in 5 years, you'd be at a completely different level of life. Napoleon Hill saw this repeatedly. The difference between mediocrity and excellence was often just 10 to 15 hours weekly invested wisely. Now let's move to something that might be the most valuable insight of all. Napoleon Hill teaches that there's a specific mental state you need to cultivate if you want to attract abundance consistently. He called this prosperity consciousness. It's a state where you think, feel, and act like someone prosperous, even before having the physical evidence of prosperity. Prosperity consciousness isn't pretending. It's not pretending to have what you don't have. It's aligning your mental and emotional vibration with the frequency of abundance. It's when you stop operating from scarcity and begin operating from infinite possibility. It's when you see opportunities where others see obstacles. It's when you invest in yourself without hesitation, because you know the return is inevitable. How to cultivate this consciousness? First, surround yourself with symbols of prosperity, not through foolish debt, but through intentional choices. Dress well, keep your environment clean and organized. Treat yourself with the respect you'd treat someone valuable. Because you are valuable, and when you act as such, the world begins to treat you accordingly. Second, associate with prosperous people. Not to ask for money or favors, but to absorb the mentality. Observe how they think, how they make decisions, how they handle challenges, how they see opportunities. Proximity to excellence automatically elevates your standard. You begin to adopt the same mental habits that produce the results you admire. Third, practice strategic generosity. Napoleon Hill discovered that truly prosperous people are generous, but not foolishly. They give value freely, knowing that what goes always returns multiplied. But they're discerning about to whom they give, how they give, and why they give. Generosity isn't allowing others to abuse you. It's sharing abundance in a way that genuinely benefits the receiver. Now we arrive at the final challenge, the definitive test that will determine if you'll really apply what you learned or if this will become just another set of interesting information that you consume and forget. Napoleon Hill has a specific challenge he proposed to everyone who studied his principles. And this challenge is simple but transformative. For the next 30 days, you're going to live as if these principles were inviolable laws of the universe, not as theories you're testing. As absolute laws, you're going to wake up every day and review your written goals with intense emotion. You're going to visualize your success as if it were already real. You're going to make each decision asking, does this bring me closer to or farther from my greater goal? You're going to practice self-discipline in at least one specific area without failing a single day. You're going to go the extra mile in each interaction, delivering more value than expected. You're going to treat each person with respect and absolute integrity. You're going to invest at least 1 hour daily developing specialized knowledge in your chosen area. And here's the crucial part. You're going to do all this with unwavering faith, even when external results don't yet reflect your internal efforts. Because Napoleon Hill teaches that there's always an interval between planting and harvest. You don't plant a seed today and harvest tomorrow. But if you plant consistently and nourish the soil, the harvest is inevitable. 30 days. That's the challenge. 30 days of total application, without failures, without excuses. At the end of these 30 days, you'll be a completely different person. Your confidence will have grown exponentially. Your clarity will be crystalline. Opportunities will have started to appear, and you'll have proven to yourself that you possess the power to shape your own reality. But I need to warn you, these 30 days won't be easy. There will be moments of doubt, moments where you'll question if it's worth it, moments where returning to old patterns will seem more comfortable. And it's exactly in these moments that you need to remember why you started. It's in these moments that you need to double your commitment instead of loosening it. Napoleon Hill studied hundreds of people and discovered a pattern. Those who gave up did so at the exact moment when they were about to have the decisive turn. They persisted until almost there, and then at the last moment, when the pressure was greatest, they yielded. And they'll never know how close they were to triumph. Don't be that person. When pressure increases, smile, because pressure means you're on the right path. The universe only tests those who have potential to achieve something great. The mediocre never face these tests because they never attempt anything significant. So when you find yourself under pressure, recognize this as a sign that you're doing something that matters. And here's the final truth Napoleon Hill wants you to carry with you. Success isn't a destination, it's a way of living. It's not something you achieve and that's it. It's something you practice daily. It's the sum of small correct decisions repeated consistently over time. It's waking up every day and choosing to think, feel, and act like the person you decided to become. You now have in your hands the same knowledge that built monumental fortunes, the same knowledge that took people from absolute poverty and placed them among the most successful of their generations. But knowledge without application is worth nothing. It's just inert information. What transforms knowledge into power is disciplined and persistent action. So the question that remains is devastatingly simple. Will you act, or will you just admire? Will you apply, or will you just agree? Will you transform yourself, or will you continue being the same person with the same results? Because you can't have new results doing the same old things. Something needs to change, and that something is you. Napoleon Hill dedicated 20 years of his life distilling the principles of success into a science that any person can apply. He did the hard work. He conducted the research. He interviewed the giants. He documented the patterns. All you need to do is follow the map he created. But following the map requires that you move. It requires that you leave the place where you are and begin the journey. And this journey begins with a single step. Not tomorrow. Not on Monday. Not when you feel ready. Now, because the only difference between where you are and where you want to be is the decision to start followed by persistent action in the right direction. And each moment you postpone is a moment you steal from your more prosperous future. So do this now. Before this video ends, before the inspiration cools, before the old version of you tries to convince you to wait a little longer, get pen and paper. Write your definite major purpose, the exact amount you'll accumulate, the specific deadline, what you'll give in exchange, the action plan. Write as if your life depended on it. Because in a sense, it does. Your future life, the life you're destined to live, the life of purpose, prosperity, and impact, this life is waiting for you to claim it. But it won't come to you. You need to go to it. You need to build it deliberately, brick by brick, decision by decision, day by day. Napoleon Hill teaches that there's within every human being a seed of greatness. But most people die with this seed still intact, never planted, never nourished, never allowed to flourish. Don't let this happen to you. Plant the seed now. Nourish it with focused thought, unwavering faith, and persistent action. And then watch as it grows into something magnificent that surpasses even your boldest dreams. The power has always been in you. The principles have always been available. The opportunity has always been present. The only thing missing was the decision to start and the discipline to continue. And now you have both, because now you know. And knowing without acting is the greatest betrayal you can commit against yourself. So don't betray your own greatness. Honor it through action. Napoleon Hill dedicated 20 years of his life to distilling the principles of success into a science that any person can apply. What you heard here isn't passing motivation, it's proven methodology. Principles that built fortunes and transformed destinies. Now the question that remains is, will you just watch or will you apply? If this message touched something within you, write in the comments, "I am ready to apply the principles." This declaration is your first step. It's you telling the universe and yourself that you decided to change. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because every week you'll receive knowledge that reconnects you with your inner power. Knowledge that reminds you of who you really are and what you're truly capable of. And share this video with someone who needs this message, someone who's seeking direction, someone who's ready to transform their life but needs the map. Be the messenger who lights the flame in another soul, because when you help others rise, you rise together. Remember, knowledge without action is just entertainment, but applied knowledge is transformation. Napoleon Hill gave you the map. Now you need to make the journey. The power has always been in you, he just showed how to access it. So access it, apply it, transform. And when your life changes, when you look back and realize how much you've evolved, you'll understand that the most important moment was this one. The moment when you decided you wouldn't be the same person anymore. The moment when you chose greatness instead of mediocrity. The moment when you began.